My mom still thinks we are close. I'm good at pretending. I'm good at giving her enough about my life that she thinks I'm telling her everything. When in reality, like the post you saw, I'm getting ready to cut them out completely.
This is the Q-Drop podcast, and these are the stories of families torn apart by QAnon. So, my mom's not a doctor, but it never fails. Anytime I tell her I'm not feeling 100%, out come the tinctures and the balms, the salves and the concoctions, and I half expect her to deliver them all on broomstick after brewing them up in a cauldron. It's a running joke in our family, and she's probably laughing right now if she's listening, but in recent years, the online wellness community that pushes these cures to suburban boomers has become a sort of gateway drug to QAnon. It certainly was for my mom. It seems to be a recurring theme each time I sit down with one of you and chat about your QAnon loved ones, and today's guest is no exception. We're speaking with Hale today, who is a deaf studies student in a blue state, a lover of Dungeons and Dragons, and he too has parents down the QAnon rabbit hole. Hale's mother seems to have found her way to QAnon through some of the same channels as my own mom. Some parts of this story were so eerily similar to mine that when I was speaking with him about it, it actually caused me anxiety. Despite the fact that he grew up in an ultra-religious household and I was raised entirely godless, I could empathize deeply with Hale over these notably similar experiences. Hale is a remarkable person, and it didn't take much time with him before I could see that. He has essentially been left adrift by his Q-intoxicated parents, all but abandoned by the very people who are supposed to be there for you no matter what. In a situation where many might crumble and give in to loneliness and loss, Hale has taken the reins of his life, built up his own support system, and is entirely determined to live for himself. It doesn't bode well for his parents, though. Sadly, they have a rude awakening coming. Hale drew boundaries, his boundaries were crossed, and now Hale has decided to move forward with his life without them in it. Before I tell you more about Hale, I want to clarify something up front. Throughout the course of this podcast and all the episodes we'll release over time, you're going to meet a few people who have decided to go no contact with their Qs. You're also going to hear from people who, like me, remain in touch with them. It's going to be very easy to cast judgment in either case. You may feel like you have enough insight into their lives to determine whether or not they should or should not remain in contact with their Qs. I know that this comes from a place of concern, but I'm going to ask you not to judge their decisions. This show is a minute window into their lives. It's certainly not enough to know the full story, what danger they may be in, both mentally and physically, and you don't know what any of these people may or may not be able to endure. In many of these families, dishonesty has become the norm. The Qs will lie to their non-Q loved ones about life and death situations. They will repeatedly make clear that their freedom to go without a mask or go unvaccinated around immunocompromised people is more important to them than seeing their loved ones. They put their own health at risk, as well as the health of those for whom they are responsible, by refusing modern medicine and opting instead for natural remedies they've found online. They're openly racist, homophobic, transphobic, and anti-choice. But probably the worst part of all of this, which is something that might be difficult for people to understand who don't love someone who's been lost to Q, is that they simply are not the same people they used to be. They're strangers occupying the bodies of those we love, and every second, every waking moment that we spend with them is sheer and profound heartbreak and utterly exhausting. So I'm going to ask that you trust in listening to my guests, that each of them knows what's right for them. Each of them knows what they can and cannot handle. Each of them is aware of their limits. They have enough grief, so let's save them any more. Please and thank you. Now, back to Hale's story. Hale grew up in a blue state, but his home was conservative. He's the eldest of 5 children, all of whom were homeschooled by their deeply religious mother. Hale's father topped off the mega trifecta.
My dad is also a police officer, so I got all of it in one.
Though they had always been close, Hale's family was not without their turmoil. When Hale was 16 years old, his younger brother told their parents that he was gay.
I don't care. I literally couldn't care less. That doesn't change anything. But my parents were like, nope, not okay with it. Wanted to change him, wanted to convert him, all that stuff. So I feel like at that point is when a rift started.
The turmoil within his family didn't subside when Hale moved out and began to explore who he was outside of the context of his family. It was then that Hale realized he had been raised in a cult.
One of the other things I realized this year through therapy was that I was raised in a cult. So I was raised in a cult. My parents were abusive, and now I have to leave my brothers there.
Coming to terms with the fact that he was raised in a cult, realizing that he and his siblings were abused as they grew up, and now knowing that his younger brother is gay and still living under their roof is all a lot to shoulder for someone who's just starting out in life. But as we continue to explore his story, you'll see that the pressure Hale has been facing gets even more complicated than that. When Hale was a child and a teen, he was unwell. His symptoms seemed to mystify doctors.
All it was doctors saying, nope, you're fine. Scans don't show anything, blood work doesn't show anything, you're fine.
It wasn't until adulthood that Hale was finally diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
I've had really horrible health problems growing up. Turns out, just realized it's CPTSD. So it's literally from my parents. That's why I have health problems.
CPTSD is kind of like next level post-traumatic stress. If you suffer from it, you'll likely experience symptoms of post-traumatic stress in addition to other symptoms such as dissociation, a feeling of worthlessness, and physical symptoms like headache, dizziness, and stomach aches. Physical symptoms like the ones that Hale was experiencing.
Modern medicine was not helping me, and I know now it's because I don't have an illness. It's just trauma that has caused an illness in my body.
But before Hale could take matters into his own hands, and before he knew what was causing his symptoms, Hale's mother was convinced she could cure him.
After we went to doctor after doctor after doctor, nothing is helping, nothing is changing. My mom was like, you know what, let's eat organic. And that's where it started. It was like, let's eat organic. Let's, change our diets. Let's try this. Let's see if it will help.
From there, Hale's mom quickly descended into the same world that seemed to take my mom, the online wellness community. She seemed to become increasingly preoccupied with natural remedies, nutrition, homeopathy. She would constantly, quote unquote, prescribe solutions to everyone's health problems.
Try this tincture I found online. It's going to solve all your problems. And I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to put that in my mouth.
Hale's mother seemed to become increasingly consumed by a distrust of modern medicine. And when the pandemic hit, it just spiraled right out of control. When we come back, Hale's father contracts COVID. If you're a patron of the Q Dropped podcast, you're going to get instant access to bonus material from this episode as well as all future episodes. Bonus material may include extras that didn't make it to the final cut, as well as video content of the interview being recorded. We might even throw in some patron-only episodes from time to time. Pledges start at just $3 per month, so sign up now at the link in the show notes. If you want to support our podcast for free, please rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and like the video on YouTube, as well as leave a comment for the algorithm gods. All of this really helps us out, and it helps us to get the podcast out to more people. Of course, you can also send the podcast to people in your life who you think might appreciate this show. Thank you in advance. Now back to the episode.
I think it was just fear that started getting worse and worse and worse, because before the pandemic, it wasn't this bad. My parents were not this bad before the pandemic. And before the pandemic, my dad did not subscribe to any of my mom's beliefs. But now my dad got COVID in June of 2020 and almost died. He almost died. And that is what radicalized him and made him decide to never get vaccinated. And I don't know how we got there. I really don't.
I often find myself wondering the same thing. How did we get here? What is it that seems to grease the funnel into these extreme ideas? In the case of my mom, I have no doubt it provides her with a feeling of control. Control over her own mortality, mostly. She truly believes that her quote-unquote knowledge of nutrition and alternative medicine has handed her the reins of life and death. For Hale's mother, the reasoning seems similar.
On that subreddit, I actually saw someone describe it as an addiction. And I think that's what it is. I think it's an addiction to control at this point.
Recently, Hale told his family that he's transgender. He's just begun hormone replacement therapy.
My dad is pretending that my transition isn't happening. He's just like, if I don't acknowledge it, then it's not happening, right?
Surprisingly, it's Hale's mom who has been more supportive.
Since I came out, she has been really good at using the right name and pronouns. And my brother said, even at the beginning, she was using the right pronouns even when I wasn't around.
The exact point in time when his mother began accepting outlandish QAnon conspiracy theories is hard to identify, but Hale knows she believes a lot of them.
The secret group of celebrities that are actually running the world, all that stuff. Oh yeah, she believes that, 100%.
It seems nothing happens by chance anymore. Hale's mother believes that everything is tied to a conspiracy. Accidents and coincidence have been scrubbed from her worldview.
Every tiny thing that's happening in the world is a conspiracy somehow.
That, of course, includes vaccines.
So she's been super anti-vaccine for years now. She doesn't know that I got vaccinated. I was like, F you, I want to be safe.
As her distrust of vaccines blossomed, Hale's mom would try to convince him of the danger she perceived. In one instance, she sent him a screenshot of Google Trends data, suggesting that there had been a spike in Google searches for symptoms of heart attack and other major health concerns in the months after the COVID-19 vaccine rolled out around the world. She insisted that this data was proof the vaccines were dangerous.
And she's like, oh, that's proof. And I'm like, it's proof that people searched it. It's proof that people were curious.
Hale managed to avoid getting COVID until just this year.
And when I got COVID, I had it and my roommates had it. So none of us could leave. So I asked her, I don't have a lot of ready to eat food. Do you think you could get a bag of soups and things like that? Also acetaminophen and Sudafed, that would be great. Can you pack those up? She did pack those up. She also packed colloidal silver, vitamin C, vitamin K or something like that. And then some other pill I'd never heard of before. And I was like, cool, I'm not touching those, but thanks so much.
Like my own mother, Hale's is obsessed with colloidal silver, insisting the liquid containing silver particles has the ability to cure and prevent just about every major disease. In the years since the beginning of the pandemic, the popularity of colloidal silver as a health supplement that fights viral infections has skyrocketed, despite dire warnings from scientists that there are irreversible and grisly side effects. In 2013, Paul Karason died of a heart attack. He had earned the nickname Papa Smurf when his skin turned a very literal shade of blue after using colloidal silver for a skin condition. Doctors and scientists have warned that continued use of colloidal silver will turn your skin blue, and the effect is irreversible. This isn't a case that can be aptly described with words, so we've linked to a photo and an article about Paul Karason in the show notes. Of course, despite these warnings, alternative medicine gurus insist they know better and continue to push colloidal silver on a very gullible audience. Also, like me, Hale doesn't take the remedies that his mother gives him. Instead, vials of strange substances sit in our cupboards untouched until we finally just work up the nerve to throw them in the trash. Despite being non-confrontational about his mother's natural remedies, Hale does push back on her ideas sometimes, but it's not easy for him.
Being raised homeschooled, I feel like I never got a lot of practice debating or arguing a side or standing up for anything. So pair that with also being afraid of my parents. Most of my life, I have not argued back. I've just like in my head been like, no, that's not right. No, that's not right. So the past couple years, especially since COVID started, I have tried standing up more.
Tensions between Hale and his mother peaked when she became aware of his support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Because his father is a cop, Hale's mother saw Black Lives Matter as a threat to her family's safety, especially that of her husband.
My mom told me that if I was not going to respect my father, then I could move out. I could be homeless, like pack my stuff and go. So that was terrifying because I had nowhere to go. So I had to just be like, oh, I was just trying to like help my friends, feel seen and, this feels important and all this stuff. And they were like, no, like, if that's what you want to do, then you can leave. And that has been most of my life. It's just like, if you disagree with us, there are going to be severe consequences.
To make things worse, Hale made a disturbing discovery on his mother's social media.
She posted a very anti-trans take on a very pro-trans bill. And I was like, this is really funny when you tell me you love me and you support me and you almost always now use the right name and pronouns, but then you're going to be posting stuff like this. And all it took was like one Google of this bill to realize that it does the exact opposite of what she was saying it does. So I like took a screenshot, posted it, I commented. I almost never comment on her stuff, but I was like, you know what? Nope, we're not doing this. So sometimes like things like that, I'll be like, nope, that's you're so wrong right now. You're so wrong.
Hale tried to explain to his mother just how hurtful the post was.
When you make posts about like gay people or trans people, my brother and I see those. Like whether or not you mean them about us, they are still about us because we fall into those categories. And the things you're posting are negative takes on things that we are doing. Like, please don't.
Hale's mother has also expressed concern about his hormone therapy, stemming from her distrust of Big Pharma.
It's like a hormone that's already in my body, right? She's like, well, I hope it doesn't make you worse. Like, I hope it doesn't make like your pain worse or like all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, turns out testosterone makes chronic pain better. My chronic pain levels have dropped while I'm on testosterone. It's been great. But like every week she'd be like, do you have any symptoms? Like what's going on? And I'm like, I'm fine. And like at this point, my testosterone levels in my body are equal to like those of someone like born male. Like my testosterone levels are very, very high. And like, no, I feel great. And she's like, well, just like make sure you're not having like any side effects. And I'm like, I have facial hair. I mean, I don't know, like, what side effects are you asking me to look for? I don't know. You're the one that's ingesting silver. I mean.
In the time leading up to Hale becoming aware of this transphobic post on Facebook, his mother had been open to learning about what being transgender means.
As far as I can tell, this is the first, like, anti-trans thing she shared in, like, 6 months, which is good. Very good.
So progress had been made on the issues surrounding LGBTQ, but it seems as though the QAnon beliefs and extreme paranoia has only gotten worse, and there's no getting through to his mother.
I could argue until I'm blue in the face, and there's no stats, there's no personal firsthand stories, there's nothing that will ever change their mind.
Like so many of you, and like me and my brother, coming to terms with the fact that he has lost his parents to these ideas has been challenging and heartbreaking for Hale.
I think I've been mourning for a long time.
I've heard this very sentiment from so many of you. It's been described as grieving people who still live. They're physically there, but who they are has been replaced. For Hale and for me, the people who raised us are simply no longer there. But Hale is a strong person, remarkably so. In the short period of time I spent with him, I was struck by how together and determined he is to heal. He's found solace and support in the love of his friends. Often he'll reach out to a friend who is also estranged from her mother and talk about how much he misses her.
I just want my mom right now. And like, I can't have her. Like, the mom that I remember as my friend, the mom that I remember loving, doesn't exist anymore. And that has been a really big, like, I think I've been mourning for almost a year. Just slowly realizing, like, oh, like, I can't have that anymore.
Hale isn't the only person his mother has been alienating. Her siblings don't talk to her either.
The reason that none of them talk to my mom is because of her beliefs. It's because of the stuff that she shares, and it's because of both her religion and her political beliefs.
Similarly, her social life is suffering. A Bible study class she used to run was full of women she considered friends, but slowly they've all stopped coming to classes.
My brother let me know that my mom doesn't know this, but all those ladies left the Bible study because they didn't agree with my mom's beliefs either. And they didn't know how to tell her that. So she has lost her brothers. She's lost a large friend group.
After the break, Hale breaks ties with his parents.
The Q-Drop podcast is produced by Porthos Media, a Canadian independent audio, video, and written content company. If you're in need of audio or video production, editing, or copywriting, visit www.porthosmedia.net. The Q-Drop podcast theme song, Mother of Alice, is written, performed, and produced by Porthos Media, so get in touch if you need original music for your upcoming project.
When I asked Hale what he worries about going forward, he told me he's concerned for the health and well-being of his parents and his younger brother who still lives with them.
I am legitimately concerned any day now I will get a phone call that my mom or my brothers are in the hospital, because she'll pick something up. And I mean, recently it was like she was taking something to get rid of like worms in your body, and then she's taking all this stuff to get rid of like heavy metals in your body, all this stuff. And I'm like, you're going to poison yourself.
He watches them throw caution to the wind even when COVID cases are high.
What makes me so angry is my family, I think they've had COVID 4 times now. 4 times. And they will not get vaccinated. They will not wear a mask. They will not be careful. And I'm like, even if you feel fine right now, like, doctors are saying, we don't know the long-term effects. We don't know the long-term, health problems that might happen because you've had COVID. And now you've had it several times. Like, and especially like my youngest brother's 14. He's tested positive once. I suspect he's had it twice. I'm like, his life could be ruined. Like, his health could be ruined for the rest of his life, and we're just not seeing it yet, just because you think that wearing a mask will destroy your lungs.
Hale has already taken steps to protect himself in case of emergency.
Yesterday, I did all the advanced directive power of attorney paperwork. So 2 of my friends are now my power of attorney and my backup. I wrote down everything I want to happen. And, if I'm in a coma, if I'm unconscious, if I can't make decisions, here's how I want, my medical decisions to be handled. If I die, here's how I want it handled, all this stuff. Because I know if I was in the hospital unconscious, my mom would take me home. And she would do natural remedies on me to try to make me better.
Heading forward, Hale thinks the time has come to sever ties with his parents, as well as the toxic beliefs that bring so much stress and anxiety to his life.
I want to be in my parents' life so I can educate them, but I can't do that right now. It's too painful right now. I'm hurting too much right now. One of the posts finally made me realize, nope, this is it. This is it. It was, again, quotation marks, scientific proof that racism doesn't exist. But don't worry, it was written by a black man, so obviously we know it's true. And that was my mom's argument.
Hale feels there's no other course of action but to go no contact.
I'm not going like cold no contact, but it's going to be a, hey, this is what's going on. I don't agree with you. I can't live like this anymore. When you're ready to either A, reevaluate your beliefs, or B, have a mature and calm conversation about this, you can email me, but I'm blocking all of other forms of communication.
Hale is in the process of severing any physical ties.
What I'm doing, so since my legal name change just happened, I have all my new documents, so I don't necessarily need anything from my parents' house anymore. I have all my new, working on my new birth certificate, have my new ID, my new social security, all this stuff. I did the advanced directive yesterday, so power of attorney. My parents don't even need to be contacted if I'm in the hospital. The only bill I still have under my parents is car insurance, just because it was half the price to just stay on their plan rather than get my own. So I am going to have to do that. I am moving at the beginning of next month. So they do know where my apartment is currently, but I'm not going to be giving them the address to where I'm moving.
He plans to send an email to his parents when all of this is done, letting them know that they are no longer listed as an emergency contact and can't get in touch with him any longer through any means other than email.
Since I do have really high anxiety, I told my friends that, the night that I decide to send this email, I want to have a party. I want to send this email while I'm surrounded by friends, and I want them to stay the night so that if my parents respond the following day, I'm surrounded by friends. So we're going to make it, I joked it's an anti-parent party. So we're gonna drink, we're gonna smoke, we're gonna listen to music that they hate, all this stuff, just try to make it as less stressful and anxiety inducing as possible.
Despite these party plans, this has not been an easy decision for Hale.
I've spent the last 2 weeks feeling like I could vomit at any moment.
He worries about his siblings.
Definitely the hardest thing so far is my younger brothers. So my youngest brother, like I said, is 14, and I love him more than anything in the whole world. I love him so much, and I won't be able to have any contact with him because he doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have social media accounts. He doesn't have anything. My 18-year-old brother has a phone, but my parents go through it. So it's not like I can really contact him either. I don't want them to ever be mad at me or feel like I abandoned them.
On a broader scale, Hale is concerned about the impact QAnon and Q-adjacent ideas will have on social issues and politics.
These people vote on all these elections. It's just the fact that, I could make a reputable looking website and post anything I want, and they're going to believe it. If I play into their fantasies, I can make them believe anything I want.
One of the most admirable things about Hale's story is how well he's built up his own life in a healthy and productive way to ensure he has the best chance to truly heal.
The biggest way I cope, actually, this is going to be the nerdiest thing I ever say. I play D&D for 6 hours every Sunday, and in my D&D games, we have started introducing religious cults so that I can mess with them. And it just lets me get out my anger in like a safe way. And I'm also in therapy because that is important. And my therapist was like, no, that's a really great idea. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate the therapist's support right now.
Hale has also made some changes to how he uses social media.
Like, I have 2 separate Facebook accounts, so my mom doesn't have access to one of them at all.
He's also managed to build up a significant support system around him.
2 of my friends come from like different but similar backgrounds as me. So I feel like I have people that understand. And even the friends that don't understand necessarily are very supportive.
I asked Hale if he had any advice for those of you out there with QAnon loved ones. He says that when you find yourself estranged from your QAnon loved ones, build up a support system around you.
The biggest thing is finding a support system. For me, it was finding a group to play D&D with. Like, those are the people that have become like my best friends. Like, we hang out like several times a month outside of D&D now. Like, I'm moving in with some of them. Like, they are like, if you can find a friend group that is truly supportive and like truly like wants what's best for you, that is the best way, because I no longer feel like I'm gonna be alone.
Outside of that, he hopes people continue to expand their own understanding of the world.
Always trying to expand like your own beliefs and expand your own horizons so that you can see other beliefs. Especially like for me, coming out of the religious aspect of it, once I started taking, like, I took a mythology course, and that course talked about Christianity as if it was a mythology, and I was like, this makes so much sense. Like, this is like, it was just so much more logical than Christianity being like real. Like, I was like, oh my gosh. So education, I feel like, has been hugely helpful to me, hugely instrumental.
He says the perfect mix is education, support systems, and therapy.
So much therapy.
I want to thank Hale for putting himself out there and telling his story so that the rest of us don't feel quite so alone in our grief. Next week, we're going to hear from Catherine, who, like Hale, has parents deep in the Q rabbit hole.
She thinks that the cure to COVID is to stop eating so that your body can focus on fighting the virus instead of digesting food. My mom has lost so much weight to the point where it terrifies me to look at her. She looks like a Tim Burton character.
Make sure you're subscribed to the Q Drop podcast on your favorite podcast platform or YouTube to be notified when that goes live. And be sure to sign up at the Patreon link in the show notes for extras from the episode you just heard. Thanks for listening.